Welcome to the podcast. We Do Recover with Jared Miller, your host.
And I'm Dr. Terry Sellers, your co-host.
This is a podcast about recovery from addiction.
We want to talk about what successful recovery can look like.
Brought to you by Steps Recovery Center and the St. George Hilton Garden Inn.
All right, we're underway. Hopefully you guys are all ready for a wild ride on We Do Recover episode 65. I'm your host of this thing, Jared Miller, an advanced substance use disorder counselor.
Dr. Terry Sellers, your co-host, and I am a board-certified addiction medicine physician.
I'm excited for this podcast. This has been a tough one. 65 is going to go down in the books.
I can't believe we're at 65.
Right?
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
We've made 65 podcasts.
This one's been a tough one to schedule, though.
Sean hasn't fired us after 65 times of having to put up with this. I'm happy about that. I usually get fired by this point in my career.
I had a community one scheduled, and then Sean had to go out of town. I understand he had some family stuff come up.
Sorry.
And then, of course, if you saw the promo, Kelsey Olson was supposed to come on. She's supposed to be our guest today.
Yeah.
Sellers.
Yeah.
Well, she called me last night, and she had
shoot.
some medical hang-ups.
Oh, shoot.
So she couldn't make it down.
Dang it.
Yeah, it's tough.
I kind of knew that, but I'll pretend like I'm surprised.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the theatrics is great.
Right.
I only foresee it maybe getting a little tougher with some guests, though, so I'm hoping that me and you can kind of do some discussion-based episodes moving forward because COVID's rearing its ugly head up again.
Yeah, well, we've had a couple of these kind of episodes where it's just you and me, and I think we have fun with them. I have a lot of fun with them.
I love it.
I like to hear people's stories. Like, we're going to continue that. We're not changing the format of the podcast necessarily, but today we are because we got no guest.
Well, listen, I'm going to be fully transparent. Recovery hasn't saved me from being very self-centered.
What?
So any time that I can come on here and talk about me or my life,
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's wonderful for me. I mean, I don't know how many people actually want to hear this stuff, Sean, but I mean, it's great for me.
Nobody.
So
You want to hear this stuff about yourself, and I want to hear the stuff about myself, and nobody else wants to hear this bullcrap. But
what
that's
do you
all
think?
right.
What do you
We'll have
think,
fun with
Sean?
it.
Will we have at least 2 listeners to this?
Yep, you and me.
3, if you
Yeah.
count yourself.
Yeah, you, me, and
Fantastic.
Sean. We got 3 listeners, but we're in
and
the
the
room. We have no choice but to listen.
Got the couple voices in my head, so we got a group meeting.
We got
I
5
love it.
people.
We have a quorum, actually.
We got 5 people. Who's up there? Any famous figures that we should know about?
Hey, listen, I know a doctor that could prescribe you something for schizophrenia.
There's
if you wanna-
medications for that. Yeah.
Well, let's all check in, huh?
All right.
How about we get this thing started?
Sure.
We're a couple minutes in, so
Oh,
so Sellers.
We're in no rush.
Let's reframe this. Instead of new and goods, how has your 2022 started out for you?
Well, I had COVID.
What? You got the Rona?
Did you know I had COVID?
I
think
didn't.
I told you.
What
I
variant
not
did you
tell
get?
Well, I don't know because they can't. I mean, they don't really do that, right?
Oh, they don't test what variant it
No,
is?
no, they don't do that. Only research labs can do
I
that.
mean, I thought it was like M&M's. Like, you know,
I got
That's
it.
what I thought.
You know, you get the crispy or the peanut or the plain or the
Right.
almond.
I got almond.
You ended up with Skittles. That's what happened.
I got Skittles. I got the Skittles. They have antibiotics for that, by the way. If you get the Skittles, yeah. I mean, I'm sure it was Omicron because the truth is, sorry about that. The truth is
that a Decepticon version?
yes.
Omicron?
Yeah, Omicron Decepticon. The truth is, I didn't get very sick at all. Like,
But you tested positive.
my wife had it my wife got it, and she got really fairly sick. Like, she was not feeling good at all and coughing a ton and starting to get worried about her. And then one day I'm at work and I'm like, I should probably test just in case.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting. I can't believe I'm about to tell this on
Let's
on
get
the
it.
waves. I'm sitting there talking to a patient, no mask on. What happened was I had showed up to work, told the nurse to test me.
Mm-hmm.
She tested me. Then I went to see a patient. I'm a genius.
Fully knowing that your
What-
wife, Melody, the
one-
beautiful Melody, she has COVID.
Yeah. I don't know if I told you this. I'm a doctor.
Oh, yeah, I just got tested. But I should be fine.
I had no symptoms at all.
Now cough.
That's the thing. So I'm sitting there and I'm talking to this patient, and the nurse comes back in because she usually comes in and jots some notes for me and stuff. And so in the middle of talking to this patient, I said, I turned to the nurse and I said, hey, how is my, and I shouldn't have done this in front of the patient. This was not, I just didn't think I was going to be positive, right?
Yeah.
Hey, how was my COVID test? Oh, you're positive.
Wait, doctors can get COVID?
I got COVID.
Weird.
Wait, okay, so what'd the patient do?
Well, I left. Like, I literally stood up and left the room right then and I telehealth telemedicine the remaining patients.
Smart man.
He wound up getting COVID.
Seriously.
He didn't get very sick.
I hope you didn't charge him for the visit.
Well, he's in a rehab. He's in an inpatient treatment center, so there's no extra charge for the visit. At least that.
You need to give him a gift card or something for giving him COVID.
Probably.
Yeah, send him a fruit
I
basket.
mean, same thing happens with gonorrhea. You give it to somebody, then you buy them a gift basket.
You sound
I didn't know.
You sound like you've given gonorrhea to somebody. Is there anything we need to talk about here?
Oh, man.
Giving COVID to somebody is not cool. Giving gonorrhea to somebody is particularly not cool.
It's more fun, though.
Well,
Wow.
yeah. I mean, there is that.
We've gone off the rails already. What are we?
Right.
What are we? 5 minutes in and we're off the rails already.
Yeah. Yep.
So anyway, there's that. That's my 2020 has been. I make resolutions and they last about the same as everyone else's, and they're the same every year. Let's be honest. Be on time. Like it's a ridiculous. I'm gonna put that down. I have a bottle top that I'm playing with, and I keep throwing it around. I make the same resolutions every year, and they last a little while, and then I give them up. And apparently, I'm an old dog, and new tricks don't work.
No, you're not. You're not changing anything.
I'm
anytime
old,
soon.
and I'm setting my ways, and I'm anyway.
I like
there's
that.
How about you? What's up with 2022 for you?
Oh man, I have this theory, right? Like I'm starting to believe my own conspiracy theory in my head that every other year is a great year for me.
Interesting.
And unfortunately, odd years, I'm coming to find out, are better for me than even years.
Is that because you're odd?
Probably.
Yeah,
There's probably some
right
truth to
there.
that.
Yeah.
So basically, it's been rough.
Yeah.
Scheduling these podcasts it's kind of just been crazy the last couple weeks.
Yeah, we've had a little bit of issues. Sure.
Yeah. I missed the deadline for applying to one graduate program, University of Utah Extension program.
That wasn't because of a letter of recommendation I was supposed to write, was it?
Partially.
Was it really?
It's okay. I didn't have all my ducks in a row. It's not entirely your fault.
Okay. All right.
So
I did send one off,
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. So I've applied to DSU.
Do you get to read the letter that I wrote?
No, it just goes directly to them. It goes directly.
You're never getting in.
Oh, sweet. Well, that's probably good. So today, you want to hear something crazy?
Yeah.
So I've learned in my recovery that I'm powerless over my substance abuse. If I choose to pick up again, right? That's the obvious one. It's the easy one. That was like first time through the steps. I'm powerless over people.
You're powerless over your addiction. You're not powerless over your recovery.
Absolutely.
Right.
Powerless over my addiction.
Right. Okay.
I'm powerless over people, and I'm powerless over
Other people.
situations.
There's one person you have power over.
Yeah, myself.
Right. But
For sure.
Other people you're powerless over.
For sure.
And
So-
one of those people could be you are powerless over me,
Yes.
for example.
Yes. Great
Okay.
example.
Go ahead.
So, anyways, today I I took the GRE.
Oh,
So let's talk about that.
I got a GRE story, so we can talk about the GRE for just a second.
Okay. First of all, I
Our
just want to
audience
put
isn't
out
going to
there.
know what we're talking about. Not all of them, but it's a graduate medical exam to get into graduate school.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So you basically have two options. You can go to the testing center and take it out of the testing center, or you
Okay.
can do it from home.
Where's the testing? Is there a testing center in St. George?
Yeah, there's one in
Okay.
the DSU campus. So,
Okay.
so I opt for option B, take it at home.
Take it at home. Okay.
So first of all, I think that I think they've been trained by Homeland Security.
Well, wait a sec. If you take a test like that at home, what keeps you from just opening the book?
Well, that's what I'm getting to.
I know. That's why I
Yes.
asked that question.
Yes. So I'm pretty sure they were trained by Homeland Security because, I mean, you have to pick up your laptop, open it up, take a tour around the room, show underneath the desk. Like, you know.
Did you have to empty out your empty out your pockets? And
Yeah, actually, I had to pull my sleeves up. You see, I'm wearing, for those of you that are watching this via the video, I had to pull my sleeves all the way up, turn them inside out.
my
Oh, yeah.
God.
Yeah. It's
just
like
to make
a
sure you didn't
virtual
have the
pat down.
answers tattooed on your arms.
Yes. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You don't even know any of the questions. How could you tattoo the answers?
I know,
on your
right?
arms?
You want to hear the other half of that? So this was on the taking test side, right?
Yeah.
On the giving test side, so I get all the statistics saying the probability of somebody in the room, where your eyes were at, if you opened up other web pages while taking the test, and it gives me it rates you while taking the test and tells me the probability of you cheating in like 10 different categories.
Wait,
Really?
are you saying you've proctored a test like this?
Yes,
Is that what
yes,
you're saying?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, so I did this during COVID when everybody was at home. So, it sucks because you have to sit there and move the laptop around, and then I get all the stats to figure out.
Oh.
Well, we're gonna get to that because I had a crazy experience, right? So my wife Mandy had some friends down. Her childhood friend of hers from Logan, Utah. Her husband. So they were supposed to go out and get some lunch.
Not her husband, not Mandy's husband, because Mandy's husband's you.
Right.
I don't know if you knew.
Her friend and
her friend's husband.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
I don't want to put out names of people.
Right, I get
if
it.
They're not cool with it.
I get it.
So they come down. The plan is they know I'm taking the test. Right. They're gonna go out, get lunch, go on a hike. Right, 4 hours, kill 4 hours. Cool. Right. So I start the test, and I'm feeling great. Right. I mean, after I get through the Homeland Security check of the room and everything. Right.
Right.
I'm feeling good. I got the essays both knocked out. Boom, boom. Feeling super good about it.
They've done the strip search, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're way past the strip search.
Okay.
So I take the first essay, knock it out. I feel really good about it. Second one, knock it out. Feel really good about it. Do the verbal part. I don't know about knock it out, but I feel pretty good about it. Right.
Okay.
So I'm like 5 minutes left on the first math piece, and they come home. Apparently they'd forgotten something.
Okay.
Now, if you know my house, I have 2 glass doors in the very front.
I can see your house.
To walk past.
You enter a door, and on the right-hand side is an office with French glass doors.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
So I'm in there taking the test, and they're kind of trying to be quiet.
But they walk past the glass doors.
But they walk past the glass doors, get what they need, and I'm talking they were in for not even a minute, right? Just in, out. All of a sudden my screen flashes. Test gone. A thing pops up and says, "Please rate your proctor. Your proctor has logged off. Please rate your proctor." And I'm like, "Wait, what?" And it kind of went down into the toolbar section, So I'm like, "Wait, what the heck?" So I go and I just continue taking the rest of the math portion.
Okay.
And it says, 10-minute break. Well, after the 10-minute break, nothing happens. There's not a continue. There's not a right. And I'm like trying to do the little chat message, like, "Hey, are you there? What's going on? Can I continue with the test?" So anyways, I call the company. I'm like, "Hey, like it just froze on me." And they're like, "Oh no, your proctor logged off." Apparently they thought that I was cheating because they saw people walk past the glass and they heard other voices. Well, and it's partly the big indicators. I have a little dog named Rocky, and he starts going crazy when they come in through the doors, barking and going nuts.
But Rocky's got the answers, and he codes them in his barks. I know. I know Rocky. He's clever.
So anyways, at first I wanted to throw up.
Just a sinking feeling, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because you get, listen, if you, I've taken some tests in my day, right? You get kind of geared up for the test, and it's like, I just want to get this over at the final, the final day. It's like, can we just get this over, please?
Oh, yeah.
And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, they took the test away from me.
I was 3 hours through a 4-hour test.
Oh, I want to just
3 hours through a 4-hour test that I felt pretty good about. Like I felt pretty confident about,
Oh, shoot.
So that paints the picture of what my 2022 looks like.
No, and I'm curious. Is there any type of recourse or any type of anything you can go back and fight them on it? Because they videotaped the whole thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and recorded it. So this is the best part, right?
Okay.
So I feel like I'm going to get called to the principal's office because I called them and they said, here's what's happened, and the proctor didn't say anything. They talked to me during the setup, like talked through the computer. So I called them and I said, "Hey, what's going on?" Blah blah blah. And they said, "Yeah, sure enough, that means the proctor's canceled. Is basically cut off the test. We're gonna because you took the test today, you need to wait 24 hours for them to submit their report." And then you'll have to report to the Department of Testing.
ETS Office of...
ETS Integrity.
ETS Office of Testing Integrity.
Yeah, the ETS Office of... talk about this sounds...
Right.
So I got a call.
Somebody got the thesaurus out.
That's when the cavity search...
Smart.
That's when the cavity search happens right there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
I'm not sure
good.
cavity search and integrity belong in the same sentence.
Whoa. I don't know.
To make a little recovery out of this thing that we're ranting and raving about, today I just got to realize I'm powerless over some stuff. Of course, I started catastrophizing. I literally thought I was going to throw up. That was the first response. I literally felt like I was going to puke.
Yeah.
The second response was I called the director of the marriage and family therapy program here at DSU, and I was like, "Hey, check it out. Here's what happened. If my CR or GRE score is late, here's why." And he's like, "It's cool, just get it figured out." So as long as I finish it by the 1st, they'll still
1st of February.
consider me as a candidate.
Okay, good.
When did DSU's master's degrees get so competitive? There's 65 students that applied last year, and apparently only like 5 got in.
Whoa.
I don't know.
That's insane, dude.
No, it's not. It's not. Okay, the master's program is not like the rest of DSU. You actually have to qualify to get in.
Okay. All
Okay,
right,
the rest of DSU, you're like, oh, I think I'm
guys-
alive. I guess I'll come to school.
Go sign your name.
Not even that.
X.
Don't even have to just show up one day. But yeah, I think the master's
I'm in
program.
school.
Because when I went back for my master's, I'd been out of school for 10 years.
Oh,
and I
rough.
took the GRE, but I had to take it in a full like commercial testing center. Oh, I hated it.
Yeah.
I didn't cheat though.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the dog barking code.
But 2 things. 1, my score was too low. And number 2, because I graduated 10 years previous with a 2.9, I was below the GPA average to get into the program.
Rough.
But because I've been doing the work for 10 years, like, okay, we'll let you in.
Okay, there you go.
Nice.
So they let me in.
So everybody,
But if I was straight out with my bachelor's, they would have said, you have to go back for another year to take more classes to get your GPA, up.
Yeah.
And that would have been a whole different song and dance.
Yeah. So everybody in this room has taken the GRE.
I don't wish that test on
I don't know if
anybody.
you know this. I took the GRE,
Yeah, did you?
which is not a requirement to get into med school.
Did you do the MCAT as well?
Huh? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, MCAT's a requirement to get into medical school, but the GRE is not. But what happened was when I was going to apply to medical school, I had a GPA that was similar to Sean's.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I went to the pre-med advisor, and I took I had already taken the MCAT, and I crushed it. I'm a multiple choice test taker. Like, I'm great at it. Let's not get too cocky, but I am. I'm pretty good at it. I'm terrible at essays, but I'm great at multiple choice tests. And so, so I said, well, he said, I said, am I going to get in? He said, no. And I said, well, what do I need to do? And he said, if you get a master's degree and get all A's, you'll get in. So I applied for a master's degree, had to take the GRE. So they tell me this about my GRE. This has nothing to do with recovery. We should move on at some point, but
It's okay. It's all right.
right. So they tell me about my GRE. I have to take the basic section, and then there were some other sections. There was a biology section, and they said, we're not going to use the biology section for admission.
Mm-hmm.
We're just going to use it to help you design your coursework. So the biology section you have to take, but it doesn't matter that much. Like, you'll get in even if you do terribly on the biology section. So I had a migraine, and I took the regular section, and man, I'm getting this migraine. So I laid my head down on the desk, and I fell asleep. And so the guy next to me starts to worry about me, right? And wakes me up, and I'm like, dude, I don't need to take this section. Don't worry about it. So I did finish the biology section, and I did okay. But anyway, that's my GRE story.
Crazy, man.
Yep.
Crazy.
All right. Hey,
Let's check in with Sean.
oh, yeah, Sean, 2020. What's happening
Sean,
for you?
2022. Actually,
2022. Wow. I'm 2 years behind.
It's all right.
What happened 2 years ago? I'm just
You do
kidding.
the same.
No, I had to make an emergency trip home to help mom and dad with some stuff, so that wasn't too bad. But 12-hour drive there, 12-hour drive back.
Remind me, home is in
San
California?
Jose. Yeah.
Okay.
He's a Cali boy.
So I have to go through Bakersfield.
Oh,
The place smells.
have I ever told you a Bakersfield
Like
story?
flowers?
And no, if they're flowers, they're the wrong kind of flower, that's for sure.
It smells like flowers, but it's the kind with buds on them.
Sticky icky.
So,
Yeah.
no, not even that. No,
No?
Just
Poopy,
they're not, it's not
stinky
flowers, not
Okay,
flowers.
okay,
Okay.
all right, all right.
Yeah.
And then first week of school,
All right.
and
yeah.
it's not. I'm less enthusiastic about teaching this semester than I have been the last 10 years.
Oh, shoot.
And I'm not seeing the enthusiasm in my students either. They're
Oh.
like, meh. So
You don't think that could be because they are reflecting your enthusiasm?
I've thought about that, but no, but it's actually college-wide. There's just a lack of
I'm sure.
enthusiasm. And I saw a thing saying that it's the lowest percentage of college students across the nation in 50 years.
Whoa.
Over 1 million potential students have not come back to school.
Just didn't
I wonder
re-enroll.
what that's about. COVID is one
I
for
think it's
sure.
COVID. I think people are just like, the Zoom, whether you're doing Zoom or you're at home or you have to come to class or mask mandates and all that. I think that affects some people.
Okay.
And I think there's just a lot of people that are just like,
Well,
well, I'm getting maybe unemployment for free, or people are just writing things out, and it's like, I don't need to go to college right now.
I got another potential cause. You got guys out there like Elon Musk saying you don't need to go to college. Like
No,
you
always have people like that.
I just watched an Elon Musk video, and he said there's no need to go to college, and I'm like, my education never hurt me once. Like it has been beneficial to me the whole time. even when I lost my license to practice medicine, I did not regret having continued my schooling.
Well, the college experience is valuable.
Absolutely.
The education you receive if you take it in college is valuable. So those two separate things both have value in my mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I mean, there's plenty of people that have the college experience without learning a dang thing.
Yeah. I mean, you learn how to wake up on time. You learn how to cook. You learn how to clean. You learn how to go
You learn how
grocery
to
shopping
socialize
for
and hang
yourself,
out.
for
You know,
sure.
it's a whole different experience from high school.
I didn't learn how to wake up on time.
Nope,
dude.
nope,
Not
right.
in college.
Still have that problem.
That's why my GPA was so crappy. I took a 7 a.m. class and never made it.
Well, listen, I know a student who's trying to get in to DSU's marriage and family therapy program. So put in a good word for me, Sean. All right, let's get this gravy train rolling.
All right, we talked 20 minutes about almost nothing. It's like
So,
Seinfeld.
Yeah, it's totally fine. And you know, because Kelsey had to cancel on us at last minute, you know, what do we do? So
we brainstorm,
we brainstormed.
right? We scratch our brains. Between you and I, like, we have 2 total brain cells, and if they happen to bang into each other, then we might
Sparks
form
might
a
fly.
thought. But instead,
Mandy came
comes up
through,
with
my
something.
wife.
Right.
What would I do
we
without her?
couldn't possibly.
Except for
come
when
up
she
with
comes
something.
home while I'm taking a test. Okay. Well,
So Jared texted me yesterday and said,
resentment.
"Hey, hey, Mandy had an idea."
So she came up with, because she's a normie, and we
Right.
got Sean, who's a normie, who can speak to some of this and get in on this conversation like he's been doing so far. What do we want normies to know?
Yeah.
I love it.
Right.
I love it.
What's the things that you as addicts would want normies to know?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that on so many levels, because sometimes, like, when I'm facilitating groups, especially particularly family groups, we haven't even done the sponsorship mention.
Oh, holy crap.
That just reminded me.
We forgot we were doing a podcast.
Episode 65 is brought to you by Steps Recovery Centers.
Oh, yeah.
They're ready to help when you're ready for them to help you. Reach out to them by calling them at 801-800-8142. We love Steps. So we'll do the other ones later.
Yeah, sure.
So I'm running family groups, right?
Okay.
And I love it.
At Steps Recovery Center.
Yeah. And I love it when I hear this from family members.
Okay.
Little Johnny or little Susie are just struggling with so many demons. Hold on a minute. If Johnny or Susie have demons, call the Catholic Church. Get an exorcist, because I don't deal with demons.
The power of Christ compels you.
Right? Like, I don't deal with demons.
You don't cast spirits out. You don't.
There are no demons involved here, right?
You don't put your hand. You don't put your hand on their head and say, "Get out."
No. I mean, some of that stuff might work with some, you know, what do they call those? The people.
Televangelists.
Yeah. But in the treatment center, there's no demons involved in this thing.
That's probably true.
Listen, the AMA,
There's no actual Satan involved.
the American Medical Association,
Yes.
in 1956,
1956. That was before anyone in this room was born.
long
And
time
I'm
ago,
quite old.
what did they rule?
They ruled that that addiction was.
A disease.
Oh, what?
Yeah, addiction was a disease.
Yeah, they had a committee and they got together and they decided that addiction was a disease.
Sure. And part of this stuff is,
But it's a disease caused by demons.
Oh yeah, there we can.
You
So-
got the demon disease.
So, is there anything that you've just heard in working in treatment that you're like, hold on a minute, this is all super stigma based? The demon thing is super stigma based, and I get that it's a play on words. I understand that they don't really mean that Johnny or Susie has demons, quote unquote. Right? But anything? Got anything to that one?
Well, I mean, sure, there's a lot of stuff I've heard in treatment. But I just went blank on what any of it is.
Another one that I love is like when
Yeah.
a married couple is going through a divorce, and the spouse of the other lights a letter from an attorney that says, while they're in this treatment program, they shouldn't have contact with their children. Okay, so if they were struggling with diabetes and they went and got hospitalized for it, should they not
No,
have contact
you
with
don't
their
wanna-
children?
No, you don't want a guy with high blood sugars talking to his kids.
Right. Like some of that, you know what I mean? Some of that
Yeah,
stuff,
that's-
I just scratch my head and go, we're so behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, that's a good example. Thanks.
Like this is society needs to know, like, knock it off, right? Like
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, I hear from families all the time. My loved one they don't love me anymore. They don't. I mean, there's a common one that I would love to address in the second segment a little bit about sort of how we approach our disease and what happens in the brain of an addict versus not loving your loved ones anymore.
Yeah.
It's not that.
That's
I
great.
can tell you that.
Well, I heard the music. Guess what that means, Doc?
That means we wasted the whole first segment and got to one topic.
Episode 65, part 1 has now come to a close. Stay with us as we jump into what we want normies to know in part 2.
Beautiful.
You are listening to We Do Recover with Jared Miller and co-hosted by Dr. Terry Sellers. We'll be right back after this short break with more of We Do Recover with Jared Miller, sponsored by Steps Recovery Center and the Hilton Garden Inn.
Hi everybody, I'm Shalee. I'm one of the clinical directors at Steps Recovery Center. At Steps, we really want to focus on the individual and not just the person in addiction. We want to have the ability to help from the time you enter and till the time you finish, whether you need healing from trauma or family issues and concerns. We got you covered from the start of your journey to the end of your journey. We're just here to help when you're ready for us to help you.
We welcome you back to We Do Recover with Jared Miller, co-hosted by Dr. Terry Sellers. Brought to you by Steps Recovery Center and the St. George Hilton Garden Inn. And now with part 2 of our podcast, Jared Miller and Dr. Terry Sellers.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. We made it through the entire first segment and didn't accomplish much.
COVID.
Excuse me, I just got a cough. No,
Contracted COVID.
I have since received 2 negative tests, so
okay.
I'm definitely negative now. Hey,
Good.
part two of our podcast is sponsored by the Hilton Garden Inn. If you or a loved one, nope, that's the Steps Recovery Center one. Hilton Garden Inn. If you happen to be traveling through southern Utah, give them a Google search. The Hilton Garden Inn, they'll take really good care of you. They have amazing amenities. The place is clean and lovely. And just type in Hilton Garden Inn, and they'll take awfully good care of you. As always, also sponsored by Dr. Pepper.
Not sponsored by Dr. Pepper.
Oh, we're not sponsored by
and
Dr.
Diet
Pepper.
Coke.
Dr.
Sellers
Pepper
and
doesn't-
Sean keep giving these guys free advertisement.
Dr. Pepper doesn't hate it if we mention them, though. So,
Oh my god.
Dr. Pepper. Dr.
Hey, listen.
Pepper.
You know what the Hilton Garden Inn's really great for?
Talk to me.
If you have a
Hot
guest,
tub in the rain.
yeah, hot tub in the rain. That was a good time.
That was fun.
Yeah. It's not what you think, Sean. Stop being perverted, okay? If you have a cancellation at the last moment, I'm not knocking on Kelsey. I get it. She got sick. But if you have a cancellation at the last minute, we had 2 of them this
We
week.
killed them this
We
week.
killed them this week, and they were so great about it.
Well, they were sort of great about it.
They were pretty great.
Can I give you a story
Sure.
that you don't know yet? So
Not if it's knocking our sponsor.
I was bringing I don't know that. We threw a couple of curveballs at him for sure. So I was going to bring a friend down, Mark Pepper, who has been on the show actually. I was going to bring Mark Pepper down. We're going to play some golf this weekend, right? And he blew out his ankle Wednesday.
He purposely was like, I don't
So,
want to golf
I'm
with
not going with
Sellers.
I'm not going with
Honey,
Sellers.
bring me the mallet.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to jump off a building before I go with Sellers. So we had to call and cancel them. And then our guest canceled. So you had to call or email and cancel that. So I get to the Hilton Garden Inn last night. They have no reservation for me.
Oh, no. They just canceled
They
everything.
just canceled us all because we'd canceled so much. They're
Take
just
it all
like, we're
off
not
the
talking to
books."
those guys anymore. So anyway, they canceled me. And then I got there. They had rooms.
They got you in.
But they tried to do I said Miller Motivation Group, and then they charged me way too much.
Okay, we'll get it figured out.
It's all
They're
good.
always good about it.
It's all good.
Yeah, we love wrestling those guys.
It's all good. It's night. It's night staff and they don't deal with us
Crazy
throwing all these
schedulers.
curveballs in all the time. So anyway, that's what happened with that.
All right, well let's
Okay.
pull up the website for
Recovery Strong,
Recovery Strong. Recovery Strong is all about
another sponsor.
fighting addiction and strengthening recovery. If you want to get you some pretty sweet apparel that basically says I'm not ashamed of being in recovery, go to recoverystrong.com, click on the gear. They've got some cool t-shirts, they got hoodies, gift cards. Yeah, check them out. Sean's got it up. They got some good stuff. So go get yourself some recovery gear. Type in We Do Recover 15 to save 15% off your entire purchase at checkout. recoverystrong.com. Thank you guys.
Beautiful. Okay, we got our sponsors in.
Boom.
Let's get to because we have 20 minutes left.
Back to the topic.
Let's get to the topic.
Okay.
And
And again, the topic is, what do we want normies to know.
And I went with, I kind of transformed it in my own mind. What would I like my loved ones to know?
Sure.
Not just normies specifically. I mean, not just normies in general, but my normies.
That's good that we took different routes because
Right.
mine are more for society, so yours more personalized.
Right.
Let's get it.
All right. So, Sean, will you play that? Can you play that quick little, this is like a 3 or 4 minute.
You did a rap?
12-minute.
You did a rap
45
for us?
minute.
Is this a
I
rap
did a
song?
rap. That's what this is. This is a little video on YouTube that I did once upon a time that explains, in fairly briefly, sort of what I think of the disease of addiction.
Terry Sellers. I am a board-certified addiction medicine physician. From a scientific standpoint, first of all, where drugs and alcohol work in our system is in a little portion of our brain called the midbrain. The midbrain's deeply primitive, like we don't even know. It's unconscious, and it's the part of our brain that really keeps us alive. And what addiction starts to look like to the midbrain is when we get incoming stress, whatever the stress may be, the bill collectors and my wife's breaking up with me and whatever the stress may be, those incoming stresses are perceived by our midbrains as a threat to our survival. Now you go and you drink a bunch of alcohol, or you shoot some morphine or some heroin or some, whatever that drug is. Those drugs work in the midbrain, and they cause the midbrain to release dopamine, which makes us feel really good. Everything that we do in our life that feels good happens because our midbrain releases dopamine. Drugs release massive amounts of dopamine, massive amounts, and it feels good. But it's a misperception. Drugs don't keep people alive, but it feels that way to your midbrain. And so then you look at how that affects people's lives. Your midbrain's job is to keep you alive. If it thinks the drugs keep you alive, and that those drugs release so much dopamine that it's better than anything else you can do on this planet, then that starts to replace all those other things which we also enjoy. Because my family and whatever other activities I enjoy, they don't release as much dopamine as drugs do. Now, people can look at people with addiction issues and say, well, that guy loves the drugs more than his family. No, that's not really the truth. But the drugs do release a lot more dopamine in his midbrain than the family does, and therefore that midbrain, which is trying to keep you alive, perceives that the drugs are more important than your family. It's not really a choice between family and drugs. It's a choice between, to the midbrain, survival and family. Well, my midbrain's supposed to keep me alive. My family has to come second to me being alive. Everything that's less than life itself is secondary to drugs when someone's addicted.
Well, there's the sort of simplified version of what addiction does in our brain. Okay?
I love it.
So one of the things when we talked about the topic, one of the things that I really want my family or my loved ones to know is, even though it may look that way from the outside, we don't love you any less.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
I love the piece where you stated it's survival.
Right.
And you can't, your family comes secondary because your brain, it's not true. Listen, it's absolutely not true.
Right,
And we're
right.
not justifying or rationalizing anybody's use.
Right.
But what we are saying is it definitely happens in the brain.
It feels that way.
The perception is that.
It feels like the drugs keep you alive. Now that, again, we acknowledge that's not true. Drugs don't keep anyone alive. In fact, way more people die from drug overdoses than car accidents in the United States. But it feels that way in the brain of an addict. They feel like they're going to die, and they feel like they use drugs, and all of a sudden, hey, I'm not going to die.
And I think maybe that's why there's so much stigma around this, is because a normie, which we're talking to today on this episode, doesn't understand the hijacking that you just described in that video.
Right.
All they see is the behaviors, the external behaviors
right.
of they're choosing to go to the liquor store instead of come home.
Instead of the family dinner.
They're choosing to go to the bar with their buddies instead of come home.
Instead of going to Jimmy's baseball practice.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
I see Sean grabbing for his mic.
No, I was going to agree with you on that one. I see, the action.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what our families see is
Right.
Our words can't mean anything when our actions speak that loud, right?
Yeah.
I mean, all they see is Jimmy or dad, brother,
Ooh,
son.
I had a brother say to me one time, "Your actions are speaking so loud I can't hear your words."
Yeah. Well, there you go. Yeah. See, there you go. But what they see is Dad didn't show up for the family dinner like he said he was going to. Dad didn't, or Mom didn't come to my play at school like she said she was going to, or came and fell asleep, or
Absolutely.
whatever else it was.
And I think
you said something earlier. You're talking about this is in the first segment. When the lawyer says, "Hey, he shouldn't see the kids,"
Right.
and from my point of view, I'm just like, well, if dad's in if soon to be divorced dad's going to be is in treatment and he's acted this way, and I've seen him act whatever. I can almost sympathize with that side, saying, yeah, I don't want my kids to associate with this person who has this problem, whose actions have been repeatedly horrible
And
time after time.
and harmful to the children.
Yeah. But you're saying, hey, it's a disease.
That's
well, yeah, but your disease is making you an a-hole.
Yeah.
Sure. The behaviors because of it, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. But however, from the flip side of that, if we know what is true, again, has been medically researched since 1956, would that person make those decisions? Would they exhibit those behaviors if they weren't in that active addiction state? Does that make sense? So here's the thing. I get that there's some resentment. I get that there's some back stuff. But if he's in recovery and he's trying to rebuild his life, he's going to need some positive motivators. He's going to need, everybody needs something to work towards.
Right.
But then are you helping him by bringing the kids to see him, or are you hurting the kids by having them see the behavior, whatever it may be?
There's no question that your point is valid.
I see both sides.
Right.
Yeah, it's an
the
interesting
point
question.
is valid. I want to go back to the brain thing for just a second on that.
Thanks, Sean.
What I didn't really talk about in that little quick video was there's really two parts of the brain. Well, there's a bunch of parts of the brain, obviously, but there's two parts of the brain that sort of relate to addiction. One is that midbrain that I talked about, and the midbrain's deeply primitive, and your midbrain and my midbrain and Sean's midbrain and everyone else's looks exactly like the midbrain of a snake. It's no different. Like, it's exactly the same as a snake's midbrain. Hasn't evolved in years and billions of years. And then there's a frontal cortex. Frontal cortex is the big part of the human brain. We have a bigger frontal cortex than any animal on the planet. And the frontal cortex is where our personality and those things that make us uniquely human and those things that also make us uniquely us, me, that's in the frontal cortex. That's me. That's my personality. That frontal cortex is where I can be an asshole.
Sure.
That frontal cortex is where, okay, and what happens is in the midst of your midbrain thinking it's going to die, it's capable of shutting that frontal cortex completely off because it thinks it's going to die, and it's got to secure your survival. And again, it's mistaken, but it thinks your survival is secured by getting drugs or alcohol because then you feel better and all of a sudden you don't think you're going to die. So what if I want to turn this back around to family, it's not me, because me is frontal cortex. It's not me that's doing those stupid things. And yes, it is. Of course it is, right? But it's not really me in the sense of my personality.
Right.
That's my midbrain, which everyone's midbrain is the same, right? It's my midbrain that's making those choices, and it has shut down me. Me is my frontal cortex. When I'm goofy and when I'm late and when I'm, whatever it is that's me, that's frontal cortex. And in the midst of survival panic, midbrain shuts that part of me down, and I can't draw on my values. My values are my family, super important. My family is maybe the most important thing on the entire planet, with one exception, and that's me staying alive. Otherwise, if I'm not alive, I don't have a family, right? And so that frontal cortex stuff is me. If I'm an a-hole in my frontal cortex, that's a problem. But when I look like an a-hole to my family, that's not my frontal cortex. That's my midbrain.
Absolutely. I'm just going to, for 2 minutes, maybe even less than that, I'm going to get back to Sean's point, because I think it's a really good one.
Okay.
Is it better for the person in treatment, right? Or is it worse for the kids? So let me, and I get that, and that's fair, and that's a very interesting point to make. Now, Dr. Sellers has just brought up the whole frontal cortex, rational decision-making, all that stuff. So if I'm a kid and I don't understand what's happened. Like maybe I have some traumas around, the arguing and, the abandonment and some of the things that walk hand in hand with addiction.
Right.
So my dad's just gone. I have no contact with him for 30, 45, 60, however many days. Maybe they say, well, into a complete treatment, which could be months. I have no contact with him. That's reinforcing.
Just reopening the trauma.
That's reinforcing that abandonment.
Yep.
They have unanswered questions, right? They're just left wondering. All of a sudden, he's just gone. Versus if they can get involved in some type of phone calls, treatment plan, where they can learn that, listen, Dad wasn't all the way there. Dad wasn't making these decisions all just because he's a terrible person. He had something going on with him. Maybe we can start the healing and maybe we can start the rebuilding. If they can sit and listen to Dad tell how sorry he is and some of the resentments or some of the regrets that he has. And so I do a thing called 4 R's with the family group. What are your resentments? And they each share. What are your regrets? What are your requests? And what do you respect? And in those 4 questions, there's so much power that happens between family members and those that we're treating our clients. Does that kind of make a little bit of sense?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And if you look at how treatment is structured, first of all, when people first come into treatment and they're still relatively close to their last use and they're still relatively close to their midbrain taking over, we have a blackout period.
Yeah, they don't get that.
They
contact.
don't see family and they don't get to talk to family for a brief period of time. And part of that's to focus the client on being in treatment and that sort of stuff.
Acclimating.
But another part is to let that midbrain sort of calm down and realize you're not going to die if you don't have the drugs, because the whole time you're in treatment, you don't have drugs, right?
Yeah.
And so then you start, once that calms down and shuts down a little bit more, then your frontal cortex takes over. By the time family can come visit them, they're them.
They're getting back to being them.
They get to be
for
them.
Sure. For
right?
sure.
So you have the full treatment program for the addict, and then it sounds like I'm not sure. Is there treatment?
Okay.
You sure I'm going with this one?
Yep.
Yeah, because it's one of my questions.
The treatment for the normie, for the family, for the wife, for the kids. It's like daddy's going away for 60 days, XYZ.
What are we doing?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
here's one of the things I would like my loved ones to know, or loved ones to know. It's a family disease. Get your own help, right?
Yep.
That's something that's critically important. It is the disease, although the disease is caused by one person in the family, it affects the entire family. So get your own help. Learn how not to be manipulated so easily by an addict who's great at manipulation. But listen, everyone's great at manipulation if they think they're going to die. So they're going to do whatever they want to.
I now need to go to therapy. I need to bring my kids to therapy.
Well, no, listen, you're great at this. You're great at this, because that's going to be an objection, right?
I get that every Wednesday
How come
night.
Johnny was doing this and now I got to go get help?
Yep.
Yeah.
But it's true. If you go get help, Johnny's
Because
less
here's the
likely
thing.
to do
Well,
this.
you didn't cause
that,
it.
Is that part of the program, though?
Yes, absolutely.
Is this where, we've dropped off Dad, and it's like, okay, now let's talk to normies and say, this is what you should do. Is that part of the treatment
That's
program?
what I do every
Sure.
week, buddy. So
Okay,
here's the thing.
all right.
You didn't cause it. You can't cure it. But there's 4 C's, and I'm blanking on them because I'm calling them.
You get letters for everything, man.
Yeah,
Yes,
he does.
yes.
Yeah.
There's 4 C's. You didn't
He just
cause
took
it.
the
You
GRE.
can't cure it. You didn't create it. But how did you contribute to it? Right? How do you contribute? In other words, the whole familial.
How do you, not how did you?
Right, how
You said how did you, which then now puts blame on the.
Sure, because they do.
Sorry,
Because every
I know
family
you
system.
just slipped of the tongue there, so I just wrote that for a second.
But it's true. Everybody contributes in some way, right? Whether it's enabling, whether it is, a dysfunctional communication, and we teach those things, and it has to the whole familia system has to change. That's why people ask me, Jared, I know you're passionate about recovery. I know you're passionate about addiction and this thing. Why marriage and family? At the core of every addict, they want to be loved. They want their family involved in their life. They have done things that they wouldn't normally typically do to push their family away. For them to achieve long-term recovery, the family system has to be addressed. That's why I want to go after my master's in MFT, in marriage and family therapy. I don't need to
2 more years, man. You'll be in the program.
I don't need to be able to diagnose everything on the face of the earth for me to be super effective. That's one piece, and that's why I'm kind of differentiating from, instead of the LCSW, instead of the CMHC, I want it to be the family stuff.
Right. So there is, so in answer to Sean's question, Yeah, there's a sort of companion program to Alcoholics Anonymous called AlAnon, which is support meetings for family. And are you going to get treatment when you go to these support meetings? I'm sure you are. And why do you have to go to treatment when you didn't cause it? I get it, but it teaches you how to live with an addict and how not to.
And you don't have to.
Right. No, it's right. It's optional, but it'll help you in your life if you're living with an addict to recognize signs when that addict is.
Sure. Let me bring up an example.
Headed south.
Let me bring up an example why it's important for the family to get education and some treatment and to just become familiar. Okay. One of my things I want normies, quote unquote, to know, just because we say we're triggered or craving doesn't mean we're going to use or have drugs on us. I have a little story here.
Okay.
I'm going to protect this person's anonymity.
This is a great one.
I'm going to protect this person's anonymity, but I get a phone call from basically a sponsee. And he's like, he's been estranged from his wife. He's in early recovery. And apparently he had a rough day at work. He works construction, seasonal. They laid him off. He's having all kinds of fear and all kinds of anxiety that's coming up. And he calls her on the way home. And with what we teach them, the best intentions, hey, babe, I'm triggered. Man, I am struggling. I think I need to hit a meeting on the way home. He gets home and pulls into his driveway. Guess what two vehicles are waiting for him?
U-Haul and a cop.
Nope.
Oh, no.
2 sheriff's officers.
Yeah.
She called the police. They searched his vehicle. They gave him a sobriety test because she doesn't understand the language. She doesn't understand the process. She doesn't understand that we teach them, be transparent, tell on yourself.
Right.
What you keep in the dark grows. What you bring to the light, you can let go of, right? So if I call my wife and say, hey, I'm having a tough day, I'm feeling triggered, I'm going to a meeting, the best thing my wife can do is not call the cops. She can say, awesome, what meeting are we going to?
See, but that's a conversation. That's a pre-conversation that I need to have.
Yes.
For an example,
Yes.
I will not hear that from you. I need to hear that from somebody who's actually you as addict. I mean,
Sure.
I need to hear that from a therapist. I need to hear that from somebody else to say, this is what they're learning. They're learning to be transparent.
Yes.
They're learning to say these things. So when they say that, you need to act this way. If you, as addicts, say, hey, I'm feeling this way, of course, we call the cops. I'm calling the U-Haul. I'm going to grandma's house to get away from me, whatever it may be. Because some of these things, these lessons I need to be taught them from somebody as I see doesn't have the problem.
Yeah.
So,
Because as long as you have the problem, I'm not going to believe you.
And most treatment centers have some form of family programming.
So let me give you another example without the anonymity. I remember the first time I told my wife I was craving. Freaked out. Didn't call the cops, but freaked out. How likely am I going to tell her the next time I'm craving when she's freaked out on me over that, right?
Not very likely.
So I had to sit down and educate her, and she took it. She didn't have to have it from a professional. She took it from me, and I educated her about, listen, when I tell you I'm craving, that's good behavior. That's not bad behavior, because when I keep that a secret and just sit with it, I'm way more likely to do something dumb than if I put it out there. And what I'm asking is, look, I'm craving. Maybe keep a little bit of an eye on me. Don't panic. But maybe don't let me manipulate you into saying that I'm going with my buddy for something for 6 hours. Don't let me do that.
Sure.
Right? And so my wife learned that pretty quickly, that I can say I'm craving, and she doesn't panic, but she knows that she kind of needs to put her antenna up a little bit.
And maybe show some support.
Kind of watch me. Right.
Show some support.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
No, actually, I had one more. I had a normie question.
Yeah.
You see,
it's great.
You're the best normie on this show.
Thank you. Wait, I'm the only. How much as a normie can I joke with you about your
what a great question,
specific or general?
What a great question.
Great question. Do you care if I take it real fast? You're like literally going down my list. Yeah. My next one.
Sean, you're a good normie, really.
Which leads into this.
I'm a good normie.
Okay, so we talk about telling ourselves and being transparent. And I had an experience around this with the dentist, so I'm just going to shoot it out there. If on a medical questionnaire form we list in recovery from opiates, doctor, please don't act weird.
Oh, don't get freaky on us, please.
Joke with us. Yeah, please.
Yes.
What the whole theme of this podcast is tragedy plus time equals humor, right? We come on here and we laugh at some of this stuff.
Right.
Like, I hope that the doctor comes in and the first thing he says to me is, well, bud.
So you used to do cocaine off of a hooker's butt. All right.
Well, no, but for this example, well, bud, looks like we're not giving you any opiates, right? Like, that would be fantastic. What I usually get is like, hey, keep an eye on that guy.
Yeah.
Don't leave any equipment in the room with him.
Count the pencil. I think he stole a pencil on the way out.
We're going to remove that guy's heart, spleen, and lungs and not give him a single pain pill.
You know what I mean? Don't be weird. Yeah, man. We joke about it, laugh about it. Like,
Yeah.
And I guess it
That's how
also
I
goes
feel.
with the transparency on your side. So if there's something that I say as a joke that goes too far, hopefully you can say, hey, that's just maybe one
Sure.
step too far. But overall, you're saying,
sure. Well,
don't tip your toe.
The thing that drives me
Yeah.
crazy about the medical stuff with the doctors is they literally list other illnesses. And so I put SUD, substance use disorder.
Yeah.
And then from that point on, I get hey, watch that guy.
Yeah. If you find a doctor that treats you that way, find another doctor.
For
'Cause
sure.
there's plenty out there that understand it, and there's plenty that don't. But listen, as a recovering opiate addict, doesn't mean I have to have giant surgeries in my life and not have a single pain pill.
Sure.
I might have to take extra precautions, but
Did you have one more, or do you want me to
No,
do
go
the last
ahead.
one? My last one to close
one.
us out. And I think this is a general.
Oh, I got the last one. Let me finish with the last one. You go on. I got a quick one.
This will be a quick one. If you hear someone identify as I'm an addict or I'm an alcoholic, that doesn't mean they're in active addiction. We need to change the message around that.
Good one. My last one is what I want my loved ones to know. We're sorry.
Oh, absolutely.
We're sorry.
I understand why
feel
you follow
terrible
me to
about
the
what we did.
bathroom in my first 6 months of recovery.
Yep.
I understand why you won't borrow me $20.
Yep.
I understand, and I'm sorry.
Yep.
Yeah. Sweet. This has been fun,
Check
man.
this out. It was fun.
This has been fun. So join us next week on episode 65.
66.
Oh, boy. 66. My brain is fried after that GRE of We Do Recover with Jared Miller. Thanks, Doc.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for joining us today on We Do Recover with Jared Miller.
Help us spread our message of hope. Like, comment, and share.
If you have any topics or ideas for future shows, please share that on our Facebook page.
That Facebook page is We Do Recover with Jared Miller. If you or a loved one needs help, please reach out to us. Again, thank you for listening.
Brought to you by Steps Recovery Center and the St. George Hilton Garden Inn. This has been a production from a podcast studio.